Morning.
Oh yeah, don't
Morning. We're going to get started in just a second. So if we're going to get some pictures, we'll get started in just a second. I'm going to introduce myself first and then our first speaker. For those that don't know me, I'm Mark Barrier. I am one of the members of the Central Fund Humanity Board and co-chair of the Sustainability Committee. Don't know if that's how you all heard about it or not, but hopefully there's what I heard about it here. We got a good sense of emails and stuff like that. So great to see everybody out here. I'm going to introduce Patricia Rockwell here first, but just want to give you a sense of what our Sustainability Committee is doing and why I'm here for this. We have a few different issues that we've been looking at over the course of the year to sort of educate the community on, one of which is different ways to electrify your home. This is, I'll let all of the other speakers talk about exactly why to do that. We're also looking at doing a harvest project, so if you've got trees or fruiting bushes or anything like that, we're working with nonprofits that will either help you harvest that food and take it to shelters, or help you harvest it and you can keep some of it and then they take it to places, or those kinds of things. We'll have more information about that soon. And then I'm currently experimenting with my right-of-way tree lawn, as it's sometimes called, to see about taking out my grass, and we'll have a report on that later in the year, as well as if you're if you don't have an electric vehicle yet, I saw a lot out there, but I don't know who they were, and you're in the market for one, we'll have hopefully an update later this year here in this room on the latest of the new models and stuff like that that are out. We did one of those in 2019, and the number of vehicles available now is vastly expanded and growing every day. So anyway, sorry Patricia for getting you queued up and then going into that. But this is Patricia Rockwell, the Executive Director of the, let me get this right, Energy Efficiency Business Coalition.
Yes.
So thank you for coming.
All right, thank you. Welcome everyone. Thanks for coming today. Just as the good news is we are preaching for things. If you'd like to go back over and take a spin over there, that would be great. So I'm the Executive Director of the Energy Efficiency Business Coalition. And I'm speaking more to talk to you about the trends that are driving these rebates and the energy efficiency, electrification into any other words like beneficial electrification. So really just to give you that overview, because I think there's people in the room here who are very experienced and have solar. We were talking about that earlier on your home, and that others are just kind of dipping their toe in the water and saying, okay, I want to get into doing more of this. So I want to give some context for that. And with that, just really quick, I grew up in the construction industry with my father, who's over here, who's retired. He's a custom home builder in Fort Collins back in the 80s. And we went through the SNLs and low prices and really, those types of things. So I'd never be involved in the construction industry when I left after high school. Maybe with a couple of expletives in that. And that I ended up getting back into the industry. And so it's very exciting what's happening. So I was lucky enough to work with Holmes, who's in your neighborhood here in Stapleton, back in 2008. Holmes, because there are 7 builders that actually are in Stapleton, and they have gotten to a higher code level and Energy Star and above back in 2008. So if you have a home, you have the benefit of probably having a more comfortable home, more energy savings than typical. And Holmes is a perfect example. I worked for Holmes Corning for 10 years in insulation air sealing division. Everybody remembers the Pink Panther, Peak Insulation. That was my company. But we brought our building science team. That's something that people don't hear. It's a word for building sciences, the science of the home as a system. And so we brought out our building science team to work with Thrive to help them get to net zero back in 2008 and cost neutral. It was super exciting. And what happened is they found that they were able to sell a high performance home at the same price point as the other builders in development here. So that's my experience, so I kind of have a soft spot for some things in here. So what is causing all of this change that we're hearing about? What I wanted to put out there, if you have other friends or other neighbors who are not really convinced that there is an electrification trend or that we need to be thinking about renewables, I wanted to throw out some stats to you because everyone went through here one of the fastest transitions in the marketplace in adoptions in history. And would anybody know what that is in the last 20 years? Smartphones and internet, the fastest adoption in history for the last couple hundred years, right? We're all now using smartphones, we didn't know what they were, we're using the internet, our whole world has changed how we get information. And Bezos from Amazon, he said that the energy transition and the Internet of Things and smart technology together, it's the fastest adoption with smartphones and the internet. And so when you think about that, I'm going to talk about that transition and what's happening in the marketplace, and then what you can think about how that changes how you're going to live in your home, just like how it's changed how we use our phones and our communications. So to start off, does anybody realize that nationally, 52% of utilities have made commitments to have 80% carbon-free and electric clean energy grids by 2030? That's 50% of the U.S. Most people do not realize that or know that, and the reason it's driving is not environmental anymore. It's being driven by the fact that it's just bottom line good business, because now renewables are less expensive to produce and deliver energy for utilities than natural gas and coal. So whether you believe this is happening or not, it's basically Excel has been using a quote saying that it's inevitable that this is going to be the new normal going forward. So we're talking about the new normal here today. A couple other things in Colorado specifically. Excel, along with 5 other utilities, are providing 91% of Colorado's electricity, have greenhouse gas emission goals. Same thing, 80% by 2030. So, and then Excel last year, they were producing their energy 49% from carbon-free renewables. Most people don't realize that Excel has already made that move, and they're at 50% renewables right now. So it's exciting, what's happening. So a couple other things. Also, 24 cities are considering climate action change, and it just goes on and on that all this is happening. So the bottom line is it makes good financial sense for owners and businesses, to make these decisions going forward. Any questions on that, or any thoughts? And just to raise a hand, is everybody aware that that's how fast this is moving in the marketplace? Yeah.
Excel is the main company, like
The electric company for
electric
Denver,
company.
the electric and gas.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I have an important question. So once we install the panels, we still pay like when it was an electric bill, we paid for the service, or
We'll go into that.
We will,
So,
okay.
We'll address that for you.
sure.
So we talk about that. Okay.
Yeah, and the exciting thing is that because all the cities and the utilities and the government, the Colorado Energy Office are all pushing towards these goals, there's a lot of incentives and rebates that are coming. We're going to talk about those today, so you're at a perfect time to take advantage of them. And they're significant. It's surprising. And the Xcel Energy has their rebates for all of the mechanicals, tightening up the envelope of the house, installation of air sealing, as well as the renewables. We're talking about the panels and the things. So next slide. So that's what I was just talking about. So the rebates. So I'm going to just hold these up because you're going to talk about it.
Yeah, we got one slide.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about them later, but the thing that's exciting, just to let you know, is Xcel Energy has their rebates for you, and now you can add on additional rebates and stack them from the city of Denver. So we'll talk about that later. So this is what I was talking about earlier. So Colorado, if you look at the trajectory here, these first 3 years have been the last 3 years that we hit that in. And we're in this inflection point right now. And this is basically an adoption curve. This is a hockey stick model, they call it. And we were joking earlier, like if you don't get on board, you're gonna get hit over the head by a hockey stick. That's not the purpose of this slide, but the point is that all of these the city, the utilities, and the state have made all these goals, they all line up, and you can see that their first big mile marker, their North Star, is 2030. So we've got, in the EBC, I've got manufacturers, distributors, and contractors, engineering firms, architects, energy raters, they're all members, and these are the first adopters, like the forward-thinking companies. So ProBid, who's here today, is one of our members, and ProBid is, progressive. They're ahead of the curve, so they're bringing this to you now. And there's a lot of contractors out there that are going to say, hey, if your furnace breaks, we're just going to replace what you have. And these companies like ProBid are saying, you need to be thinking about the future, because in 10 years, if you end up getting a gas furnace again, you're not going to get to trade energy back and forth on the grid. You're not going to get to, they're going to time use for you. And so you're not going to be able to take advantage of those rates and those different programs like you would if you have more of the newer technologies. Any questions about that?
What is trade energy?
Trade energy? To buy and sell. So that would be, for example, there's going to, and you'll explain this later, right? So, but there will be a peak demand. So basically, that Excel is having to ask you as homeowners to put things in, you put new mechanicals in your home, put HVAC, replace your swampy and your air conditioner with a heat pump. They're asking you to do those things so that they can reduce the energy use, so they can hit their goals by 2030. So that means if you have solar and you can generate more solar, you can get credits and get some payment for that if you give it back to the grid, back to Excel energy. Does that make sense?
So in the example of replacing your furnace,
With a heat pump?
with a heat pump, but I don't exactly know what a heat pump is.
We're gonna go through all that.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
We've got the experts here for that.
So this also works for the heating of a house, it's not just for electricity, like you said?
And so not just solars, but it really, when you look at the house, when I talked about the build, and I'm kind of giving you big concepts, but it's helpful to think about when you're making choices of what you're going to buy and how you're going to run your home. And there's basically what we call the shell of the envelope. It's the building of the house, of where it leaks, and air comes in from the outside. And what happens is with builders like Thrive Homes, we pressurized their house to figure out where it leaked, and then we went in and air sealed and sealed all those leaks up so you can control. Usually your house, we always say it sucks and blows, right? So your house, every hour is losing air and bringing in air. So you have, I think, homeowners, like we're most aware of it through COVID because we're in our homes. And what's happened is we had the fires, like if you had the smoky smell in your house and you were going, okay, I don't like this. Also, when we're talking about viruses and germs and those types of things, that goes back to the furnaces. And so people are much more aware that how their house built, it affects the air quality inside. And it also determines how much energy that you save and how much you spend on your bills. So it's kind of two big things you get out of looking at how your house is built and what type of equipment you put inside that heats and cools your house. Is that helpful? Great. So before we move on, so I think it's important to know, like that's why I wanted to show that trajectory, that it's not 20 years away from right now, it's happening now. And if you think that the utilities 50% have already made those goals to electrify, to do beneficial electrification, have a carbon-free grid, which means that they're picking cleaner energy, they're asking you to give you rebates to install this stuff in homes because they want to work with you. They do things now that they call demand response. So Excel will make you an offer that says, hey, if you turn down your thermostat a couple degrees for the next 6 hours because we don't want a blackout or a brownout, then you will get credit for that. You want the ability to do those things in the future. They're going to interact with you a lot and help you in your house. And then the last piece is our So EPC, we have what we call action groups, and that's where the manufacturers and distributors and the contractors are members, and they're working on these types of things. So if you're looking for good contractors that will talk to you about heat pumps, and will talk to you about solar, and understand this energy piece that's happening, like this is, you're in the right place. And they're an amazing resource to help you with that. And I think that's all I have, isn't it? Yeah, any questions? Is that helpful? Is that helpful information to understand why we're all hearing about so much and where we're going and where we fit in? Awesome. All right, thank you.
So we'll get the other presentation now. Okay. Somehow.
Ha!
I'm Mark with Rebate Energy. I'm going to put this together with CPUN. I'll speak up. And Low Miller and Associates. My other Jesse's in the room, Danny. And we've got Gary Southern from Low Miller. So a lot of those heat pump questions, solar questions, we're going to be able to answer for you. We'll kind of go through this and walk you through how it works in the house and what electrification means. It's pretty simple to me, but it gets complicated to the homeowner. Because it's like, how does this all tie together? How does a heat pump work? It's not magic, they work. They've been using them for years and years and years. So, obviously, we're proponents of solar to power your home first and foremost. That gives you control to power your home. Then we have local companies like Emporia, you see their products here today, that help energize your home. We have backup batteries. You can draw from that battery when the grid fees are much, much higher in the afternoon, if you're using more energy than you're producing. They've got smart technology that's tied to your phone to tell you how you're using energy. So when you know how you're using energy and what's taking the most energy, you can manage that energy, which is smart management. So Excel is our friend, and then they're not our friend. And I mean that in a funny way. The reality is they have to get to a certain decarbonization point by 2030. They can't do it on their own. And you as homeowners are using that energy. They want to take a little control back from you, but in a nice way. They're going to incentivize you for that, okay? Ironically, anybody noticed that their utility bills went up a little bit recently? Okay, they're not going down. They're going to keep going that way. That's a reality. That will not change, and you have zero control over it. If you're in budgeting, it's called an unbudgeted expense. So most of our energy is produced by natural gas and coal. They are trying to get away with that by shutting down facilities. In order to do that, they have to build their infrastructure up, okay, which is expensive. Or they have to encourage you financially to put heat pumps in and solar and things like that. Well, time of use. Does everybody understand what time of use means? Okay. They're going to charge you more when you need them.
Europe.
Oh yeah, Europe, of course, sure. So they have to do that, and that's hopefully you won't be doing the laundry in the afternoon, you won't be running the AC in the peak day, or running the dishwasher, doing the big items. Net metering. Everybody in the state of Colorado, all utilities do net metering. Net metering means your solar panels produce the energy. That energy passes into your house. It's converted with inverters. It's converted to AC power. All the power you use in the home is first going to, the solar is going to power everything used in the home first and foremost. Any excess energy that you're producing goes through a meter, which is called a net meter, and it counts the credits you're sending back to the cell. So essentially, at night, when it's dark and you're not producing energy, you can pull back in those net credits for a net zero bill. Now, the way it is set up in Colorado or any place is you average your 12 month usage. So when you do a net zero system, you're essentially paying zero for energy. You're always paying a connection fee, you're not gonna disconnect from itself. You may need to use their energy as well.
I have a question about the time of use. So I have solar panels on my house, and so I don't know if I should do the laundry in the daytime when the sun is blazing and my solar panels are making lots of energy, or if I should wait and do it at nighttime. So it was interesting to hear you say the solar panels first charge the house.
Yes.
So that makes me feel like I should do the laundry when the sun is shining and they're making energy.
Unless you're using more energy than you produce.
Right.
I don't have an answer for that, except to say do it at night.
So
Or
the
get a battery.
2 to 7 o'clock is the highest 28 cents.
28 cents.
I understand that. That's for Excel, that's what they charge
Right.
most, but
For your house is what you're saying.
So I'd have to say, how big is your system? How much does it produce on an average daily basis? And then how much energy pull on a day or two laundry are you pulling?
yeah, obviously smart
Right.
So I was
equipment
gonna-
will help,
I was
you know,
gonna
so
s-
I could tell how much the, you know, goes.
So that smart meter over there, it's like that is what it's designed to do. It'll tell you how much solar, and you'd be able to look at how much energy you're using, so you can figure out what time of the day.
Yeah, and
That's kind of the only
they
way
were
to-
out putting a smart meter in my neighbors, but they go, oh, you have solar, we're not gonna put yours in for a while, because they have to do some kind of other system, so,
That's awesome for you, really.
you
The smart meters are to encourage people not to use energy at the peak day of the summer.
right.
I'm one of 6 boys from South Dakota. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's 90% humidity in the summer and it's 100 degrees. We sat from the air conditioners. We weren't outside running around. It's insane. That's when you need the energy to run your air conditioning. And I am a baby about it. I want it to be cool all the time. So if that all you need. Next slide.
Well, one quick thing I was gonna mention about that is, depending on what your appliances are as well, if they're gas or electric, we're specifically talking about the electric side, which if you're using gas for like a gas
No, they're
dryer.
all,
Okay.
Yeah.
Jim?
Yeah, so does Excel offer the opportunity for you to sell the energy back to them if you max out your daily goal?
I'll say kind of. So you buy it for 12.5 cents. You sell it back for 4 cents. So the net right now is the return.
Don't do it.
To add fancy probably doesn't make sense, but and Jesse would probably attest to it. I think we're gonna get to a point where if you have a backup battery system, and Excel has a program right now where they can take 80% of their energy 100 days out of the year to power grid power back. They pay you $1,250 to do it, but if you have a 15-year battery and you're still selling your energy back at 4 cents, you're covering the cost of your battery, right? And having an emergency backup power. But you're never going to get rich off Excel yet. We may someday get to a point where everybody with a battery backup system is selling the energy back at the same rate you would buy it and make a few bucks, but it's not quite there.
So I've had solar panels since 2011, and what I've learned sort of the hard way, it's not worth it to sell back to Excel, because they give you, like after a year, I get like $50 back from Excel. But what was worth it was to roll over,
Yes.
because that way your summertime, your excess summertime energy that you make, you can use those credits in January when there's snow on the roof and you're not
Absolutely.
making energy.
That's the best way to do it.
And that way you're not getting that big rate cut from what you pay. So it's much better just to roll over. Because otherwise, right in January, when you need those units, they pay it out, it's pittance of a rate, and then you're sort of,
Right, checks
paying,
to them.
all of a sudden you're paying an electric bill, and you're not
And
using
January,
it.
February are probably two of the least production months in
Yeah.
the state. It's all down to 77's position. Anybody can jump in on this, Jesse or here. This is the almost perfect home for electrification. We started with energy efficient windows, solar panels to produce the energy for your home. Ceiling fans are great to generate that energy. Does everybody know how to reverse their ceiling fans from the summer to the winter? Do you do it? It works. Heat pump dryers. I'm not very familiar with them, but they're going to save you 40 to 50% more than gas dryers. Obviously, insulation. Everybody talks about insulation. Everybody should be talking about. That's probably the first and foremost thing you should do.
Can I add something?
Yes.
So what'll happen is if for instance, Gary, this is your topic problem, but if you install, if it's a gas furnace or a heat pump, if you tighten up the envelope to see insulate and air seal, a lot of times you can take a ton down and right size your unit, so that you can pay less on your furnace that you're going to put in, but then you get the comfort in the home as well. It's just an added kicker.
And I've lived here since 2005, and we know how fast they threw homes up. And I'm not nothing against the contractors and builders, but their job was to get the home done, approved, and the homeowner in there. And back then, you may or may not have got your R30 or whatever insulation mark.
So if you're not sure if you need insulation in a particular area, the library actually just allowed me to check out this little thing that I can point at my wall to figure out where the cold spots are. So you can get it from the library for free, and then point it at the wall, and it'll tell you the temperature there, so you can see which areas aren't insulated. Because
Also, XL Energy, you can get a home energy audit where they come in and do the same thing, only they hook up a blower door so they suck all the air out of the house so that you're pulling outside air through all the leaks and gaps and cracks, and then they shoot it with that infrared camera. And so that you can get, XL Energy gives a $200 rebate to you guys for doing that. Cost is about, investment's about $350, so for net $150, you can get a 32-page report of everything you can do in the house to save energy. Well worth the
And there's
$150.
funding available for weatherization. So we do that. We do a lot of weatherization with solar projects. We'll talk about electric vehicles, where they're going, where they're at right now. We have a charger over here. I just talked to Mark about it. It's a smart charger. Mark got the game a lot earlier. He has a dumb charger. The smart charger with Excel and with rebates right now essentially are free. Okay, $1,000 from Denver, $500 from Excel. It's $1,750 for an install. If you already have one, it wouldn't be that much. It's kind of plug and play. That program, you hook that up with Excel, and you agree to charge your vehicles at night, overnight, and it's 10 cents. They give you $50. Okay, hey, whatever. But you're also charging at a lesser rate, thus you're charging yourself. Induction stoves. I'm a big gas guy, but I'm starting to get sold on these things. They sound pretty nice. So that's the direction that we are going to be going. In fact, the conference I was at that you guys hosted, they talked about this, and the new builds at one time in Denver, it's going to be, there is no gas delivered to the home. It's an upgrade. So that beautiful beam across your ceiling, it's going to be gas if you want. Home appliance and smart technology, gas thermostats, all these things have things connected to them. Heat pump HVAC systems, we call them hybrid heat systems here in Colorado. I'm not diving into that. I'm going to let Gary do that. Heat pump hot water heaters, I'm going to let Gary dive into that too. They're here, they're great. And then batteries can be used hopefully in the future as storage too. So we'll have what's called bi-directional, where you use like Ford Lightning. It can run to the whole home. I don't know anybody doing that right now for Lightnings. You can't get them, but I think that's another place we're going, and that's the automotive industry getting into electrification of the home, which is interesting. Misconception of solar. I'm a solar guy. Mark's a solar guy. No sun, no power. Okay, that's how they work. You got to have the sun shining to make power. It works on cloudy days, snowy days. You don't have to go up there and sweep them off. We don't advise it. Nobody bounces like we used to off the roof. Your roof size will dictate the amount of energy your system can produce. Because you can only put panels in certain places. Okay? And sunroofs have limited space. Many homes in Central Park, and I've been here since '05. Anybody else that early? Okay, yeah. The systems they put on were like 3 kilowatt systems. I need a 9 kilowatt system in my house. Okay. They did it to promote clean energy. They did it to help offset the cost of energy. So those are some of the misconceptions. I see the threads on Facebook posts all the time. Solar sucks, it doesn't work, they can't do this. People have to understand it's only limited by the roof size. Then Mark's panels in 2011, right?
I've got 2 sets, one from 2007, and another set for my cars from probably 13.
So in 2007, Jesse, what size panels were being installed?
A 150 watt.
150 watt panels were 400 watt panels. Same footprint. So you need less panels now, and that's continuing to grow. So those smaller roofs might work out now. So I just wanted to talk about that because it's a huge topic around here. It will, but it's only going to work to the extent that we have space. Catastrophic events from the homeowners insurance. This is part of it. I've had 2 roofs replaced here in Central Park. No panels. They're resilient. They're built to the outside. Does not mean it will not happen. But it's an insurance claim. Okay. Faulty unit, faulty inverter, faulty panel. It's a 25-year warranty. Okay. They're ridiculous. I wish my car was more than that. Oh, I'm done. We'll answer any other questions regarding that stuff here. We'll let Gary take over.
So my name's Gary Southern with Low Miller and Company, Carrier West. So we're a distributor. We sell the equipment and supplies to the contractors that put them in. Probably supplied most of the equipment that's in your houses right now, the furnaces and air conditioners. We probably supply them. So I'm going to talk about heat pumps and hybrid heating. Does everybody in here right now have a gas-fired furnace? Yeah, okay. And you have central air conditioning or refrigerated air conditioning. Okay. What's that? You have it. We call those evaporative coolers. Since the 1980s. Oh, you're not wrong. Okay, hit the next slide there. So first I'm going to describe how a heat pump works. So let's talk about your air pump in the summer. It's removing heat from the indoor air and moving it through the refrigerant lines to the outside. So right now in the summer, if you go hold your hand over the air conditioning condensing unit outside, it's blowing hot air, right? Okay, so in a heat pump, there's a reversing valve that reverses the refrigeration cycle. So in winter, with a heat pump, what's going to happen is there's always heat, even in cold air. And so we're removing that heat from the outside air and we're distributing it into the house. And we're exhausting out cold air. So that's basically how it works. It's just a reversing of the refrigeration cycle and getting the heat in the house instead of outside. Does that make sense? So pretty basic system. They've been using heat pumps in the Midwest for generations. They've been using heat pumps in rural areas where they can't get natural gas or propane. They've been using heat pumps out there to heat their house. Okay, in Colorado, it was 2005 when our gas prices went above electric prices for the first time in history. Didn't last long because they came across a big natural gas line in South Dakota shortly after that.
North Dakota.
North Dakota.
Right, Jim?
These two also are from up there. So that's when it first became, heat pumps started being installed here. Didn't last long though because we got that cheap gas. And our gas is still cheaper right now, right? So what we would do in a home like you guys is we're going to continue to use the gas heat at low temperatures. the systems that we put in right now is called hybrid heat. So we can use a heat pump. If we've got solar PV, I got it at my house, Jesse has it at his house, down to about 35 degrees. And then it automatically changes over to the gas heat side, and you heat with the gas heat. So does that make sense on how that works? Hybrid heating, that's how that works. What's coming is the gas prices are going to continue to go up. Who knows about the electric, if they're going to go or not follow that. But we want to be able to heat and cool our houses as cheaply as we can, right? Based on what's going on. At my own house, so here's one thing about the sizing. So my own house, Jesse and Mark put in solar PV when I moved in, 2018 is when it was. At that point, Excel would only allow you to size the solar PV system for 120% of your past 13 months electrical usage. All right, so that's all we could put on our house. Now they're just changing all that so you can put it on at 200%, which is what we're going to need because you're fixing to add a bunch of electric usage appliances, and if you do everything that was on that last slide, you're going to be using a lot more electric, right? So we're going to need a lot more solar panels, right? How many of you in here right now have solar? Okay, and was it when the house was purchased or when the house was built they put it on? Okay. If you're shaking your head no, you may be sized properly now. Maybe not for the future. If it was when the house was built, I'll guarantee you, you are undersized for what's coming in the future. You need to have Mark and Jesse do an assessment of your house to get enough solar to go into the future with. Yes, ma'am?
Are there any hybrid heat pumps that instead of switching to gas when it's very cold, switch to electricity? Just, you know, be it solar panel or XL electricity.
Okay, so let me answer that. Yes, there is. First off, I described how a heat pump works, right? What's coming for what they call cold weather climate. So now there are very efficient heat pumps. And so we can run those down to lower temperatures, like down to -17 actually. And so you could heat the house with that. Going to use more electricity, naturally, the colder it gets, but it will still work, and they're very efficient. So that's what's going to be put on in the future. Right now, I'm waiting on a little one from my kid's house. But guess what? We got supply chain shortages going on there too. I ordered in October. It'll be here in June. You know?
Well, because I would really like to not use any fossil fuels. That's my goal.
Okay.
So,
No, you will be able to do that.
but like in the next year or?
Oh yeah, you can get it now.
If you can do
Yeah.
electric backup instead of gas.
Okay.
Help resistance.
Well, one thing we gotta be careful of,
I'm
with-
trying to do the same thing.
you wanna run on that heat pump if you can, because those are most efficient. The normal backup that's been there in the past is what's called electric resistance heat. So that's a blower blowing over coils. So those coils are the same thing that you get when you're a little electric heater that's sitting in the floor with you. That's the most expensive electric to use, is that right there. So you want to get a very high efficient heat pump in order to operate that. Mark, what were you going to say?
Nope, we're good.
Yes, sir.
What is the highest COP or more like efficiency of the heat pumps that you distribute right now?
Well,
You're talking about super efficient ones. What will you distribute?
So the carriers right now, the one I've got on for my kids, it's up at like a 27, 28 SEER. And I was going to mention also, you guys have heard of ductless or mini splits. So those are available right now. And those are very high efficiency, and those have very high efficient COPs and HSPS.
So the 28 SEER, is that a mini split or is that a central?
No, that's central. So, and by the way, if you keep your gas-fired heat, we're going to want to change out that furnace when it's time to get something that's multi-stage or modulating on the gas side, and that has a variable drive blower in it. Because those are very efficient blowers that are on there. 150 watts is all it's using. Chances are the ones you have in your home now are using 600 watts. Yes, sir.
So I just ran into an interesting situation with that exact scenario. I tried to get a heat pump last year. Every contractor I talked to, because I didn't realize Mark did this, told me heat pumps aren't ready, can't do them. I asked about putting in the mini splits, and they said, no, we'd never do that because you got central air already. So I kept looking until my furnace went out in December. They put in what was supposed to be a high efficiency AC and a high efficiency furnace with a variable speed blower, right? And what I discovered immediately was my electric bill skyrocketed because I had the variable speed blower on basically 24/7. And I'm a nerd who checks my Excel bill every single month and charts it and has little graphs to show me where it's coming from and stuff like that. So I was paying at least $100 a month more now in electricity than I had before. So this last month I got tired of it and turned off the blower, and immediately my bill dropped. So did I just get a really bad blower, or did they just?
I have to look at it and make sure.
Because it was supposed to be a high efficiency system.
Let me say this.
Yeah.
I apologize to you for our industry. Because guess what? They're just finding out about all this too.
Right.
And it's very hard to teach old dogs new tricks, let's just say it that way, right? And so it's hard to bring on that whole industry that, the way I like to say it is, they've walked a very long time in the same direction.
Okay.
It's funny because at that conference that I brought up earlier, at the end of it, and Patricia did the hockey stick analogy, and they asked an open-ended question to all these HVAC contractors at the end if they believe heat pumps will work, and most of them said no. But they're old school. They know how to do their job. That's all they want to do. They don't want to get into all this new technology and gadgets and controlling it and managing it. And I told Patricia, I said, you got to use that analogy differently and tell them you can accept it or you can get hit over the head with the hockey stick because you'll be out of business. That will be the business they have to be in to stay in business.
And
What's a mini split? Everybody keeps talking about.
Okay, so it's a ductless model. So in homes that don't have a ducted system, and by the way, is it 2024, Denver will not allow any new gas taps. It's gonna have to be all electric. Starting in 2024 with new builds.
New buildings are having new codes that are requiring that. I was gonna add to Excel just came out, because of your problems that you're talking about. A lot of times the settings are the problem more than the equipment. And that's an option with the contractors, and they're learning how to set it properly. So you might really, you might wanna check that, but this is for sure that literally Excel delivered 2 weeks ago at their conference, but it's the tips for getting the most out of your heat pump, and it's kind of these problems that you're talking about. They're saying.
I couldn't find somebody who would do a heat pump, so I had to go with just a high efficiency furnace.
Well,
Yeah.
we'd gladly take a look at that. Sorry.
No,
that
I
happened.
mean, I figure by the time that one's old, you know, the heat pumps will be the only thing available, and I would totally be all set for those. But I was trying to go with the no fossil fuel approach, but I couldn't find anybody to do it. So, but the part that confused me was why did my variable speed thing jack up my electric bill?
I'd like to take a look at your
Why don't
system.
Gary and I just come over?
Yeah, we'll come take a look. I want to mention real quick about heat pump water heaters.
Next slide.
Okay, so you understand how a heat pump works. Well, a heat pump water heater, it has that same outdoor
in the summer.
condensing unit that we're pulling the heat in, except for it's getting transferred and it's going to heat your water. That's a heat pump water heater, basically. So that's coming as well. All of the water heater people are getting into it that do the tank type now. And so there's different types of systems with that. Did I give you a good enough explanation on the ductless or the mini splits?
Yeah, I've got it now.
Okay.
So,
Right now, if you've got a multi-level home, all of our homes in Colorado, right? It's really nice on the main floor where the thermostat is. If you got a single system house, it's freezing in the basement in winter, and it's never cooling enough upstairs, right? So a lot of people are choosing to put in a ductless system, maybe in that upstairs office or master bedroom or whatever, to help cool there. And those are all heat pumps, so you can heat or cool off of that.
Like a cartridge.
Yeah.
That gets-
And there's different types, they don't always hang on the wall, so you can get them that are aesthetically pleasing.
We've been freezing my son here since we moved here in '05. He gets the coldest room in the neighborhood. But he's really skinny, so it's working out.
I got Nicaraguans in my case. I got one other thing, okay.
I was just curious, can you get one of these with like a, do they have a tankless system available or do you have to have
But these are also type of smart technology. I'm going to talk about that in just 1 second because as a homeowner and a business person, it's the so what factor is important to me. The so what factor right now is there's $3 billion available to offset the cost of what you do. Okay, to get home. Solar on down, do everything. Excel also has business handles up.
Let me mention one more other thing. Guys, ProBid Energy will,
We'll talk about the fires.
right, so we have 2 different air purification systems that will absolutely take care of wildfire smoke. It'll take care of actual SARS-CoV-2 virus and any other virus or bacteria. So make sure you pick up one of these. There's 2 different, same technology, a little bit different, but there's 2 different systems. And there's QR codes on here, so you can watch some videos if you want to about that. And if you want to get something like this, you can get it now. When you get new systems in the future, these get transferred to the new system. And because you're here today, these guys are given a $250 discount. All you gotta do is, when you call them, mention that you were at this seminar today. So
they're awesome. They're awesome. I just put together a quick Denver City electrification example. It's just an example, okay? With the solar install, average system, let's call it 7.2 kilowatts, that's $23,400. Denver rebate is $4,000. Tied to that rebate, however, is you have to put in an air source heat pump with Denver to get that. So if you take the federal tax credit, which is 26%, and that system cost is $13,316 for solar. That's dirt cheap. Battery storage, which is become the most popular thing we're being asked about now. $14,500 for a battery. The Denver rebate is $27.50. Federal tax credit $37.70. Net system cost $79.80. Also tied to a heat pump with Denver. Okay. EV charging station, I kind of went over that. The net, if you get all the incentives, is a negative $205. We're going to figure that out. Hybrid HVAC system, 2 stage furnace, and an air source heat pump. You may not need the new furnace now, but I just want to use this for example. So $25,000 for both, nuts to bolts. This is everything installed, folks. Between the Denver rebate, the Excel rebate, that's $10,300. You don't get the federal tax credit, although the new bill from Biden may have meat in it that will help you offset that, but nobody gets along with there, so. Heat pump water heater, this is the Rheem, $5,400. Denver gives a $4,000 rebate, and I think Excel gives $500, so that's combined. That costs $1,400, which is about what your average water heater install is going to cost. It should cost, some people charge $3,500 for it. Total cost $70,050. With the incentives, $22,500. Federal tax credit is $10,309. Your net cost is $37,241. And if you broke that out in payments, it's probably less than what you pay for electricity right now. Okay, to get all that. That's crazy. We figure an average incentive of 20 grand from Denver, there's 150 homes that are qualified this year. The rebates are contractor driven, meaning the contractor submits the rebates, they knock it off the price. I don't want to go too deep into the weeds on all that, because we could be here a while. Just fill out the right forms and things like that. So next slide. Yes. Oh. Jesse's handed these out, but I wanted to give you an example of all the different rebates. You want an e-bike, you get $400 off. Home wire system, 1,000. Air source heat pump, depends which one you have. We recommend full climate. Ground source heat pumps, mini splits, heat pump water heaters, solar, battery storage, and an electric service upgrade. Some of the older homes in Stapleton may not have a big enough panel, electrical panel to power everything. I think if you go all electric, you're going to need a panel upgrade. You're able to offset that by $2 grand, which is substantial. Okay, a lot of electricians charge $5 or $6 grand. If we're doing a project in your home, we're around 25 to 35. Okay, because we can tag in our guys. Next slide. Oh, I thought I had Excel. All the Excel rebates are online. I thought I had those in.
I was gonna just mention too, because we're thinking of one-to-one, I was replacing furnace, to a heat pump. But I also want to remind everybody too, that if you have an air conditioner and you're looking at having to replace your air conditioner, you could replace your air conditioner with a heat pump, keep your gas as backup.
Absolutely.
And not, make any changes. So that's what I'm looking at, these rebates going, shoot, I'm gonna get a heat pump, replace my AC.
My first home here was built in 02. I'm not getting it, but I promise you, that unit's been replaced by River Bucks. The grants, of course, do this job. We're in that world right now, and that's why we're doing this. I live here, so I kind of have an idea of the locality and the fact that some of the homes that we built in the first few filings, they didn't deal with HVAC systems, for example. It's a reality, and we don't deal with that as homeowners. And we did this today to show you how affordable it would be to make that change and take advantage of those incentives. A lot of people don't understand, but hopefully this simplifies. Go ahead.
So how does the rebate program work in Denver? You said 150 homes. Is it gonna just be voters that they work in that now?
Jesse, I don't know. I haven't dealt with Denver City rebates, but Jesse has in the past. As a contractor, you have us in, we'll break out the package and then we submit to the rebates. And if we get them, you get your discounted system.
Oh, so you get the rebates first and then you actually do the work?
Well,
on this, the new Excel rebates here, we don't quite know how they're gonna work. Sometimes they can assign them to the contractor. Sometimes they gotta go to you and you can assign them to us. We haven't seen how that's gonna be released yet. We haven't seen those forms. We're hoping you could just apply them to us. We can take them as payment. That'd be nice.
I read a thing on Facebook about these, Denbrite. It was the online magazine, Denbrite.com, and they had an article about it. And they said the homeowner did not need to fill out the paperwork and did not need to wait to get the money. It was going to happen at the point of sale.
Okay, well, we
So
can, that's
that
the case. We
sounds
could
like
fill it out and just take that as payment.
Sounds like
That'd be nice if we could do that.
contractor driven.
Yeah.
But for solar specifically, they've not released how that's going to process.
These were just released on Friday.
They were just,
The Denver
yeah,
rebates just came out, the
Yeah.
full announcement.
Yeah.
Between Gary, Patricia, and Jesse, they've been doing this a lot longer than I have, and Danny will handle it. However they say it needs to be done. And so those will be attributed to your system cost, even if we get the check to us.
But at some point, you anticipate at some point during the year, they're gonna run out of money, right? Like
Yes.
6 months from now, we'll be like, no, there's no more rebates.
I mean, if you could get $23,000 to do all the stuff you want to do, I gotta think some people are gonna be real motivated to get this done. And we are motivated to help you.
Yeah.
This isn't a sales presentation, this was to show you, because people didn't understand heat pumps, they don't want to accept them, they work. If they work, it's not before they work.
Well, and I have to say, internationally, heat pumps are the norm. Like, the US of A is totally behind that we're still using gas. So it's the manufacturers like in our group, they'll talk about what's happening in the other countries and what's coming here, and it's kind of slowly making its way. Also, the Holy Cross Energy up in the mountains, it's stunning. They have multi-family buildings that they have, X amount of heat pumps. You see the rooftop, it's just like a row of heat pumps on top. But they're like functioning down at the -17, -20, and those are the cold climate heat pumps are here and they work, and that's only like in the last year and a half. So they're putting those cold climate up there, and they're not even using their electric backup. So it's working. We're just getting used to it.
Denver's gonna convert commercial, if you need a new commercial system in a commercial building, at some point they're gonna tell you that it has to be, it will not be.
So, and I talk to people about these kinds of things. I would say there's two groups that I gotta run into. One is the people who want to go no fossil fuel, and they're very committed to doing that. And then there's a group who always ask, what's the payback period? You guys didn't provide payback periods and all of that. I can tell you that my payback period has long expired on my solar panel.
Sure.
And I got it back when they were, the 150 tiny little ones that aren't nearly as efficient. But I'm wondering, like, for the heat pumps and things like that, like what kind of effect would I see in my electric?
Program, I can't give you definitive date, it's a hell of a lot faster than it used to be, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And with solar panels, I won't say the solar panel prices drop, but the panel wattage went up, and that's kind of helped things a lot for doing that, to get the ROI. There is an ROI to it, but if you zoom back, what I just said, everything I put on an example installation is $37,000 as compared to $70,000. If you have 7.2 kilowatt usage, and you eliminate your electric bill, even if you finance this, you're pretty darn close to replacing what you pay for electricity to get all that stuff. Theoretically, you'd have to prove it. So, do you want to pay it yourself, or do you want to pay Excel, the HVAC guy, the solar guy, the EV charging station? I mean, the list goes on and on. It's just a lot. Excel on their website, there's a whole lot more rebates for smart thermostats for $70, and they're very, very nice thermostats. They got a ton of programs, and so you got to pay $150.
Yeah.
I thought I had
Give
this.
that link to everybody too.
Yeah.
To kind of taper up what Mark was saying, there is a definite return on investment for any investments in renewables. Batteries not so much, because it's kind of more of a thing where how often are you using that backup and what it's doing. If they get into the point where there's a buyback eventually, where Excel says, hey, we'll take some of your energy from your battery and we'll pay you a premium for it, there may be a better ROI and incentivize for storage. With the electrification and the heat pumps and everything else, it's really difficult to quantify because it really comes down to what is your current price per therm, what are you paying for that gas, what are you paying for your electricity, and what are the supposed rate increases that we're projecting over time to get that return on investment. There's always going to be a return. It's just a matter of, is it 5 years, is it 10 years, is it 15 years? And then the variance in there depends on how efficient are the panels on the roof, how efficient is your new heat pump, what is your current rate for energy, how often are you using, what is your energy profile, like how often are you drawing. So there's a lot of variables. The nice thing is we can do a full assessment for all those features and give each individual like a really customized ROI. It's just hard to generalize that in a broad scope because it really is dependent on what do people currently have with solar or their current usage profile and what are they looking to get to. And then some things have an ROI, like I said, and some things just don't. Some things like battery backup, we tell people all the time we want the storage for just in case the grid goes down. You're not really seeing a return on investment for that, but when the grid goes down, you have the peace of mind that you can still keep your refrigerator on and some emergency lights and some other things. So some things in the electrification won't see necessarily return on investment. You'll see that peace of mind, maybe better comfort, like you said, like the walls aren't cold, or you're not spending a bunch more energy, and you're not seeing your rates go up by 20% on a yearly basis as the utilities start to make more of these electrification.
I will vouch that it has been a great inflation hedge to have a lot of solar panels because my electric bill this month is $6.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's the cost of being connected to the grid.
Right,
So,
right.
the other thing to think about, we'll probably have to wrap up, so if there's questions, we'll address them. The value of your home will increase with these things. There's a lot of value. Solar increases the value of home 4.1% with zero prices of that right now. Appraisals and all of that comes to about the same number. So that's pretty nice right there. Plus you're offsetting the cost of what you pay for electricity. It's been funny because our solar system, as my kids age, they stop turning stuff off and use the lights on their floor and computers. I need to do hot. They're using, they're little kids when they move in. So there's always adjustments and changes. Like I said with Gary, we'll come do a free assessment. There's no pressure. I'm not going to be get hammered to buy this today. It's, I want you to buy stuff. I don't want to sell you. If you're interested, come do it. It doesn't take us but an hour here to come in and look at everything. And we'll assess it. Then we'll get you a price. If you want to, great. If not, great. But I promise you what we're doing probably be accurate. So, questions, thoughts, concerns?
I was gonna add to, you're talking about contractors earlier too. That if you're looking at all the different devices, there is a website called loveelectric.com, and you can actually search for contractors there too. Not
Or you can just call these guys.
yeah, call these guys, but if there's
Everybody that
something
works with them is certified.
yeah, and that's the point. You want to get somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Any other questions?
Patricia handed these out, I just have 4 copies of, that's Excel's rebate summary that's going on right now. I only have 4, but these are.
And take advantage of them, because I don't think a lot of people do, and they're there.
You want to double up, get that Excel rebate, and so if it's 1,000 or a couple thousand from Excel, and you add on $7,000 rebate from Denver, that's significant.
And just to let you know, Gary's with the distributor, so we're well connected to get the equipment. That doesn't mean it's available right now. I mean, let's face reality, okay? But everybody has the same situation. But we're pretty lucky that we have great relationships with our solar panel distributors and our battery EV charging station partners. It's here, we have it. It comes down to permitting. I mean, that's the rub anymore. We don't control that schedule. But once we get it, we're ready to run. So, you had a question? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
And you guys are one of the, because to qualify for the Denver rebates, you have to be an Excel like certified contractor.
Correct.
You guys are part of that.
We're also.
Okay.
And by the way, when you were asking about it, the rebates run out. So they're, Denver was putting $3 million a year for the next 3 years.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's, if you end up not getting it this year, you want to get it. The way Jesse was talking about it, like they can pre-order so that the next year you're in line to get the next year. Set of rebates. Is that correct? Am I
So,
saying-
yeah, what we did on the solar back when they did the solar rebates, they put some in a bucket, and I think on this rebate, they got $3 million per year. So when it runs out, then the next year they're gonna restart it again. So what we do is just everybody would hurry up and get signed up, and then when the bucket was full, then they go wait until next year, pre-sign up, and then release them the first day it's released next year. But yeah, you gotta get in, get them reserved. And I don't know how this one's gonna do, if you sign up, and then they reserve it, and then they send you a reservation letter saying, we've approved you for X amount of money, so you secured, or you have to get it installed and then send an invoice. That's what we're trying to find out.
And I looked last time on the website, they didn't have all the details yet.
So,
And I don't know that Excel on the heating and air conditioning and heat pump water heaters and all that, I don't know if they've ever run out of funds in a year. And with the way they go after increases, you know, and with the requirements to use renewables and all of that, and the fights they have with PUC to get more money, they'll be supplying rebate money for a long time.
I think everybody got my business card. If you want to call or reach out, my offer is good, very nice to share with your stuff. No pressure, just look at it, take what it is. Any other questions?
Bill, thank you for organizing.
Go ahead.
Just real quick, so the heating, the air conditioning, use the heat pump, water heater uses the heat pump. Do they use the same heat exchanger?
No, the two separate.
What was the question?
Same heat exchanger for a hot water heater and the HVAC system.
I just want to replace both at the same time.
Yes.
The heater exchanger on the furnace you're talking about?
Yeah, like so if you put the heat pump in for the HVAC system, and the water heater, we take that out that same.
No, it's a separate condensing for the heat pump water